we have CCG archaeology going on. There's a new treasure we found in the tomb somewhere.
Designed by Richard Garfield, who's the legendary designer of Magic the Gathering.
One person acts as a corporation seeking to control the masses, while their opponent plays a runner. Individuals seeking to expose those agendas to the world by hacking into the corporation's network.
It had a pretty short run and ran from 1996 to about the turn of the millennium. And it was another couple of years before Fantasy Flight, great redeveloper and ultimately killer of many of my favourite games, re-released it. Now, it was really popular with Fantasy Flight.
If that's Jackson, Timmy wins the game here. Miss. Score! Oh!
Of course, it wasn't long until that game was killed too, despite the popularity, as licensing issues got in the way. Now a group of fans have taken up the mantle, producing their own Netrunner sets without a license. The question is, how long can they get away with it? I don't have a sponsor, but I do want to shout out Vince Kai-chan, who made all the music you hear in today's video on a f***ing Game Boy. Can you believe that? Insane. You can listen to his work in the link below. Netrunner is a game that was killed not once, but twice, and like Bond, keeps coming back to die another day. It mirrors the journey of the world it once licensed, one that comes in and out of fashion as the decades pass. Cyberpunk. No, not that one. This one, a tabletop RPG published by Talzorian Games in 1988. While William Gibson's novels brought the cyberpunk genre to life through books, and Blade Runner popularized it in the movies, this game brought the genre to game nerds everywhere, offering an alternative to the popular fantasy setting of Dungeons and Dragons. The tabletop game introduced the concept known as netrunning, hacking into the internet using specialized equipment to mess with corporate servers and harvest their data. You know, the fun stuff. In the original Cyberpunk, the games master would often draw their own personal internet dungeon on a piece of paper for the netrunning player to traverse through. A later revision released in 1990 changed this to an isolated minigame that didn't involve the other players at the table, making them sort of sit there while you completed it or continue the game on their own. This was a controversial change amongst players, but didn't stop game designers from seeing that corp vs. hacker gameplay and wanting to iterate on it, like Dr. Richard Garfield, creator of Magic and many other things. He saw the potential the concept had and designed a game that captures its essence wonderfully. Or captured, because it's been killed. Twice! But we'll get back to that. Of course, it's been a minute since the original game was discontinued. 27 years, actually. So the original starter sets are a bit pricey. So in the spirit of today's efforts of fans keeping the game alive, we're printing proxies of all the cards you see today, to catch a glimpse of the past and future of Netrunner. I did make a bit of an error and didn't upsize the PDFs I downloaded, so we've got some mini cards for some of them. But they'll do the job and are very cute. Okay, it looks like we've been infiltrated. A Netrunner has uploaded a program into this server. Good thing I've broken up and scattered the secret code throughout this video so the Netrunners will never get their hands on it to icebreak through our system. Don't go looking for it, okay? Alright, let's get down to business. The original Netrunner collectible card game was a revolution in game design. Card games of the era allowed players to build decks out of the same pool of cards. Netrunner flipped the script on that approach, providing players with two separate card pools. A green card back for the runners, purple for the corp. The runners are hell-bent on infiltrating the corporation to take it down, sure, but the corporation is preoccupied with advancing its own nefarious agenda. The runners are like flies you have to swat away, building up defenses so you can keep them out and complete your own tasks. The game allowed disgruntled employees to live out their wildest fantasies of getting back at their corporate overlords, or allowed players to step into the shoes of big business and crush the working class. Oh no! The end result is a fascinating mix of gameplay and role-playing, one that was fresh and exciting to players. In keeping with the aesthetic of this business-like environment, nothing is free. You want something, you gotta buy it. Players used a set number of actions to do things in-game and earned and spent in-game currency called bits to pay for things. It's a constant back and forth, one that was more like chess and less like Wizard of the Coast's other big name game in Magic the Gathering. There aren't many actions you can take on your opponent's turn here, so if you're into a slower paced game, this was an option. Having both sides play entirely different decks that function completely differently was a novel concept, but one that players took to. But it did lead to its own set of issues when trying to scale the game. When you're a new player learning a card game, you can try and learn one playstyle with one set of cards and you're good. But if you wanted to be good at Netrunner, you faced a whole separate challenge. The best way to beat the other side is to know the other side. So now you're memorizing playstyles, cards, etc. from both the Corp and the Runner card pools. For organized play, you had to build both decks anyway. Each player would bring a Corp and a Runner deck to shops or tournaments and play each of them. This makes sense, as if you ran a tournament and out of 100 players, 70 brought Corp decks and 30 brought Runners, you simply can't run the games as you don't have an even split. A Runner can't play a Runner and a Corp can't play a Corp. There's no hostile takeover mode here. So now you're asking your player base to invest their time and money in 2 separate decks and 2 separate card pools instead of just one. You might look at today's dedicated Commander player who buys a new precon every set and think that's not such a big deal. But for a game just trying to establish itself, never mind one from 30 years ago, it's a lot more to ask from your players. That's not to mention the fact that this would never branch out past being a 2-player game. Maybe some attempts to run a 2 vs 2 arrangement could be made, but you couldn't easily turn this into a multiplayer game night. Sometimes it wasn't easy to turn this into a 2-player game night. Maybe you and a friend both like the game, but only like to play as the Runner. Now someone has to play the Corp, if they even own a Corp deck that can compete with your highly constructed Runner deck. I spoke to a source of mine who used to work at Wizards at the time, who let me know that the license for the Cyberpunk tabletop IP was fairly inexpensive as far as these things go, so they had that going for them. But as novel and as well received as the idea was, even with the cheap licensing, the logistical challenges that Netrunner faced due to its asymmetrical nature meant that its break-even point was going to be much higher than other games. Naturally, it was one of the first on the chopping block when Wizards had to focus on its premier moneymakers. Just like Matcha's gonna be on my chopping block when my budget gets shrunk. Corporate. The game was shelved in 1999, receiving all of one expansion set and a handful of previously unreleased cards as a parting gift. Then it was laid to rest, although there was another attempt at capturing the card market by licensing the Cyberpunk world in 2003 via the Cyberpunk TCG, a game I hadn't even heard of before working on this video. One former Magic Pro Tour player, Svi Mashevitz, even attempted to purchase the license from Wizards of the Coast to continue to produce the game. That never came to fruition, but Mashevitz held strong opinions about the future of Netrunner. Interestingly, in this old interview I found, the idea was floated to him of Netrunner existing as a living card game before the term was widely used, where the base set could be purchased in full and further expansion packs sold. Mashevitz exclaimed that selling Netrunner in this way would be the nightmare scenario. It's much better and richer to publish it as a CCG, but selling sets is basically admitting defeat. Stop it! Fantasy Flight here to save the day! The renowned games publisher set its sights on Netrunner, licensing the IP from Wizards. But it did distance itself from the Cyberpunk IP, setting the game in its own Android universe. Thus, in 2012, Android Netrunner was born anew as a living card game this time, or LCG for short. Something Fantasy Flight had a penchant for, previously releasing Call of Cthulhu, A Game of Thrones, Warhammer, and Lord of the Rings, all of which did not last very long. I don't think that portends doom at all. This model, however, is surprisingly consumer-friendly. See, we Corps can be good guys. Instead of selling cards in randomized booster packs to ignite the primal senses of gambling monkeys everywhere, Fantasy Flight's LCGs sold you play sets of every card in the set. No catch. Players can purchase every card they need to build any deck in the game in one fell swoop. This solves the issue players had with the original CCG, which was the financial strain of having to buy enough cards to make a deck for each side. Okay, that's pretty good. The game itself maintained the hallmarks of what fans loved about the original CCG, the beautiful asymmetrical gameplay of Corp vs Runner. However, it expanded the concept to further broaden the fight between the two factions, introducing 4 new Corps and 3 new Runner types. Choosing your identity type allows you to express yourself even further in your playstyle. Since you received all the cards from the start, nothing was stopping you from experimenting to find the one that fit best. And if the thing that prevented players from joining the original Netrunner card game was the expensive buy-in, maybe the LCG model was a great alternative. Oh, you better believe it was. The company pushed Android Netrunner hard, pumping out 8 cycles of expansion sets, each with 6 data packs over the years it was in print. That's not even including the deluxe expansions released between sets. Organized play was expansive and highly supportive, with 4 levels of play starting at the store and ending with the World Championships. In its first year on the scene, Board Game Geek crowned the game with its Best Card Game Award. Was there nothing this game couldn't do?
LCGs are marketed as a money-saving alternative to TCGs, considering you don't have to buy randomized booster packs of cards you might not even really want.
But in the first core set of the game, we didn't include 3 copies of every card to complete your playsets. Sometimes we included just 1 or 2. So you had to buy the set multiple times if you wanted to receive every copy of the cards you needed. Oops.
What an asshole.
But we did hear the player complaints and we fixed that problem moving forward.
But we still sold you a ton of expansion packs.
If you want to keep up with the metagame, you're essentially forced to keep up with the constant stream of releases or risk falling behind. At 6 data packs per release cycle, that's a pretty quick rate for cards to come out. Granted, MSRP on these packs was only roughly $20, so a grand total of $120 every 6 months, about the price of 1 booster box from any other major game, isn't that big of an ask. But if you missed a release before it was sold out, you had to wait on a reprint. It's not like you could just purchase the cards you were missing on the secondary market, because unlike a TCG, there was no real secondary market for single cards. And yet the game was going strong, no signs of stopping. Oh wait, it stopped. In 2018, Fantasy Flight's licensing deal with Wizards expired and they seemingly were unable to come to an agreement. They had just released a revised core set, which fixed many of the problems such as missing playsets that plagued the original core set. They had just implemented rotation into their format to keep things fresh. They still had sets they planned to release. It didn't matter.
One of the early fan theories for the cancellation of Android Netrunner was the then-in-development video game Cyberpunk 2077.
Wanted to license the Netrunner card game from Wizards themselves to include it as a mode in the video game, a la The Witcher 3's Gwent, also made by the same studio. No such mode ever appeared in the game, however. It's more likely that the Cyberpunk IP that Netrunner borrows from is so spread out between different studios and games it was just difficult to get a deal done. Either that or the thing that kills all games. It was nearing the end of its profitability. Head of Fantasy Flight studio Andrew Navarro gave his hope that, like the previous game, Netrunner could live on. That the fans would continue to play the game and maintain the world in a way that would spur a resurrection. As if we, the Corp, would ever allow for an event like that to happen. Netrunner's future is to be forever stuck behind bureaucratic red tape, licensing issues, and overall corporate greed. You'll never be able to experience this great game. We don't have much time. Listen to me. We can save Netrunner. Not a year had passed before Project Nisei, who would later rebrand as Null Signal Games, snatched Netrunner from the depths of licensing obscurity and started publishing the game themselves. By forming a non-profit, they've been able to keep the game alive for about 7 years now. The game is compatible with Fantasy Flight's Android Netrunner series, ensuring that the players who invested in the old game weren't left high and dry with their cards. All of them could be used, which, in a funny twist, meant the last couple sets Fantasy Flight released became harder to find and quite expensive on the secondary market, since they were short-printed on account of they knew the game was going under. But remember, this is a non-profit. Null Signal Games wants to make Netrunner as accessible as possible. While they may not have the rights to sell you the old cards again, there are other, less corporate ways of delivering the goods. Certain FFG era cards have seen reprints with new artworks and wording to make them more accessible for players. This along with 7 new full releases of their own. Not only can you purchase every pack from Null Signal Games at a reasonable price, you can make your own. Every pack is downloadable for free in ready-to-print PDFs so that anyone can take part in the fun. These readily available proxies aren't just for the kitchen table either. Proxies of all cards compatible with this version of Netrunner are allowed at all tournaments. Yeah, you heard me. You don't have to spend a single bit or credit on this game in order to play it. Of course, it's nice to donate to the cause if you can. And for a fan-run operation, the level of competitive play is pretty astounding. Prize kits are assembled and given out to local organizers for both casual game nights and local tournaments. This scales all the way up to national, continental, and world championships. It's amazing that all of this is put together since the team is composed entirely of volunteers. The in-house staff handles all elements of card design and graphic art, although anything they do need to commission is done at market rates. It does seem like this model is a sustainable way of keeping the game alive. It's a testament to the power that the fans have when it comes to our games. But I mean, there's still a wrinkle here. Null Signal Games doesn't own the license to Netrunner. Fantasy Flight is the one that owns the universe that the Android cards are set in, and Wizard owns the Netrunner name. How is any of this allowed? Truth be told, it's almost impossible to copyright game design. There was once a time when patenting your game, while difficult, was a possibility, but that's since been halted. For instance, Wizards of the Coast patented the trading card game moniker a while back, but were not able, or not allowed, to reacquire the rights after it expired. And while trademark protection is a very real thing, there are steps you can take to ensure that you are covered legally, as the VP of Null Signal Games, Jeff Pruin, lets me know.
I will say we never got any official nod from Fantasy Flight Games, but there have been especially a lot of ex-employees who have been very kind with us and giving us leftover prize support and kind of encouraging words when they can. And we've done our best to, when we can, reach out formally and get some understanding with the various IP holders, because Netrunner's IP situation is actually quite complicated. The use of the word Netrunner has been something we've gone back and forth on and received different advice several times, so sometimes people see products being labeled as compatible with Netrunner. More recently, we felt more confident to actually go and use the term Netrunner. Rules mechanics are not particularly legally protectable, but text and art certainly is. Basically, every single asset was remade. So every icon, every card frame, like the colors were subtly different, and all of the art on every card was brand new, commissioned and paid for by artists. And so we've done our very best to try and not profit off of other people's intellectual property. So we've built new characters, we've more or less stayed away from Fantasy Flight settings, other than the fact that they're both set in the far future on Earth.
Now, one last thing. I brought you here because I need one last code to install this program, steal the agenda, and beat the corp. But I have no keyboard to type it in here, so I need you to do it. Type the code in the comments now. It's a runner's worst fear and a corp's best friend. One man who can shuffle things around like they're nothing. His name is... I hope I didn't interrupt anything important. But that is Netrunner. Thank you so much for watching. Believe it or not, while I do a ton of research for these videos, I often go into every new game that I cover as a newbie. So I rely on you to help me fill in the gaps, provide additional context, and add in any parts that I might not have been able to cover. So please feel free to share your experience with any version of Netrunner in the comments below. I do read them and I enjoy hearing what you have to say. If you have a favorite dead game you'd like to see me cover, go ahead and let me know in the comments below as well. And if you enjoyed this video, I have a lot more like it, so go ahead and subscribe and give me a like and you'll be able to see a lot more. Alright, Netrunners, good job today, and I'll see you in cyberspace. That sounded a lot cooler in my head.